AliExpress Bootleg Gunpla, JMS Gundam Mark II, 21st century real type colors. Quality at about half the price. What is going on today? I want to say thank you again for the recommendations. I love your guys' feedback. JMS is definitely a solid brand. More on that in a little bit. You can see a little bit creasing on the box. You can see right there is how they shipped it in a bubble wrap envelope. Again, these are individual sellers on AliExpress, so just be aware when you're selecting whatever kit you're picking up from there. As you can see right here, unlike the XFS, everything comes in individual packaging, much like you would see with the Bandai version. And some nice coloring on this manual here. It looks pretty good. Sound. I will say this came with water slides, not included on here for description, so it's kind of freehand what you want to do with it. First off, here's Runner A. Absolutely love this light gray that's molded in there. Again, this is the 21st century P Bandai version or variant. Second time building it. I have built the original, and I would say the quality of the plastic and I'm seeing on the runners is very similar to the Bandai variant. It's very sharp. That gold is absolutely gorgeous, and we'll get a side comparison a little bit later of the two. Nice clear color for the eye, and then the beam saber effects, and of course those dreaded poly caps. And I absolutely love this base. I'll talk more about that in a little bit later. Here's those water slides included. Side by side comparison, it is extremely hard to tell the difference between the two. However, JMS is actually more detailed than the Bandai version. Yes, I did say it, there's actually more panel lining, so if you like your panel lines, JMS actually might be a good brand to look at. And then also the gold is slightly different as well. It's actually more bright on the JMS versus the original Bandai variant. I think it looks pretty good myself, but there's that outlook, by the way, guys. I think it looks pretty good, but still excited. As you can see, just right into the articulation. Some head movement, a little bit of blockage on there. Of course, that's without the side mounted camera accessory. Decent articulation, nice double bend in that arm right there. You can see beautiful bend. Ball joint for the hand, just full 360 spin right there easily. Nice mechanics in the ab. That is actually different than the Bandai version. They have a little bit of more swing in this just because the way it's the joint on the inside set up. A little bit of snagging right there if you don't have the side skirts on. Once I removed them, and I kind of actually switched sides, so I had no issue with that once it was actually corrected the right way. Good solid bend all the ways up with the leg. Back is the rear solid skirt, so unfortunately there's not much back with it, but a nice double bend right there at the knee, so allows for solid articulation. I will say the upper part of the thigh with the foot was definitely a weak point on this kit. Nice rotation at that foot there and a solid bend back, so you will be able to pull off some more dynamic poses on the ground. Some movement on the rear vents where the hilts are sold to, some back and forth and side to side. All the accessories that come in this kit, and you do get a solid amount, plus that base that's not right there, but you'll see it again. First off, I want to start off with this cannon. Simple 3 pieces, 2 sides sandwiched together, and then of course that handle. So you have a seam line going down the middle of it. However, it doesn't look too bad. You can't really see too much of it. A darker color has a tendency to nub a little bit, but it's very doable for cleanup too. You got it. The hand is pretty tight, so I had to use my part separator to get on there, but it just slots right in the hand, sandwiches that back piece on there, and sits nicely. When done, you can actually store this on the rear skirt. There's a fold out, and it fits perfectly in there. It is like a glove. This thing, I was impressed with how well detailed it was and how quality the plastic was. Moving into the beam rifle here, you can see it's made from that same darker plastic, so expect a little bit of cleanup. Give yourself some extra room if you want to try to avoid some of the more harsh nubs. That side handle there swings up and down, doesn't make full contact with the side, but doesn't bother me none. You can see same way as the bazooka, just sandwiches right into the hand, and then once it's done, you can actually store it on either side of the side skirts. Works out very nice. Here's that beam saber. I want to show you the nub mark on that plastic. I feel like it was a little harsh than the normal Bandai, but just a little bit touch up there to be aware of. Slides right in the hand or is mounted on the back each side for both hilts. Moving into that shield right there, you can see some solid color separation. The gold on there is stickers, and you can definitely see where those sharper points are kind of trying to peel back a little bit. The attachment for the back of the arm can do a full 360 spin, and then pegs right into the hole there, just like any other Bandai kit that you would have. Same setup here. And then when it's done, you have a separate attachment piece that goes into the back for storage. You have to pull off that back peg there. Be careful, it can be a little tight. I did scratch mine a little bit using my part separator, so be aware. You do get a second V-fin as well, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This is actually the original one. I opted for the larger, non-rounded, non-child-proofed V-fin. Absolutely love the fact they included a second one of these too, just because of how brittle they kind of feel with that gold-plated. And here is one of my favorite accessories, again in that dark, so you get some nubbing on it, and since it's rounded, it's a little bit harder to clean up and kind of hide. Sits on there perfectly, and the best thing about this is if you lift the shoulder, it pops up in the air right off the head, so just FYI on that. Final thoughts on this kit. Man, I was thoroughly impressed. Again, I want to say thank you to everyone that had recommended the JMS brand. This definitely beat XFS, the Spartan that I did, and I love the amount of additional panel lining they added to this kit. I have a hard time actually calling this a bootleg kit, and this right here is my favorite feature. If you guys watch my channel, you guys know how much I absolutely love a base, and they took like the Gundam base, and then they turned it into an action base. So it's a Gundam base, action base, and honestly, it was brilliant. I could go on and rave about this so much more. I could, but I'm gonna move on, man, because I could spend all day. So this thing is phenomenal. Of course, there is a couple of setbacks. The quality of the plastic is not quite Bandai. It's a little bit on the softer side. And the panel lining, I did use the panel line pins that are from Bandai. Now that is an oil-based pin, but they're a little bit less aggressive than like the Tamiya that I would typically use. And so I do keep that in mind if you're gonna do that. I had no problem with it. It's not my favorite panel line just because of how thick the lines come out of it sometimes, but it's very doable. Honestly, love the water slides that came with this too. I did throw a few of them on there because I didn't feel right last time not testing it on the Spartan. So I tested these bad boys out. Loved it. I love the detailing. A little bit more shine to this plastic too than the Bandai. And again, I struggle calling this a bootleg because it's clearly not the 21st Century Bandai Mark II, just because of all the additional things that JMS added, including that base, which by the way, they wrote JMS on the front of it and it's in black versus blue. So I think that's kind of some of the things they've done to this kit to change. And I mean, they even changed the mechanics in the chest a little bit at the torso to add some more additional articulation to it. And you can fully mount all the accessories on this kit too. So perfect all the ways around in that sense. Now let's move into a couple of minor areas that is definitely kind of like stuck out to me. First is this joint right here. It definitely is weak. It's probably the weakest part of this kit. So it wants to pop out of place and then also kind of slides and separates. This hilt is kind of, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't lines up right. It seems like the plastic may be a little too long for there and causes some gapping on there and it pops off. It actually almost has a little bit of a bend to it, like kind of like a boomerang in a way. Just the way it was cut out. I double checked it to make sure I didn't miss any nubs or anything, but it looked pretty good. This thing excelled in every expectation that I had. Honestly, I enjoyed building the kit. I love the Mark II and I love the Bandai version, so if you can get your hands on it, definitely try it. It's not the Bandai bootleg. There's so many different things that JMS added. You can tell the pride that they put into the model on this. So that's it for me, guys. Make sure you check out the video that YouTube is recommending to you guys. And until next time, love.